The easiest way to load a new script into CaptionView is to open it up in its editor, copy it all, and paste it into CaptionView. A couple important points about this. CaptionView condenses new lines or carriage returns, so you need to add extra carriage returns to enforce new lines, which you'll need to make clear with a script. You also have the option to put the character's name in front or a caret if you want, however you'd like to format your new lines. But for example, the title and the author here, the playwright, they are separated by a blank line. When they get imported into CaptionView, that one blank line will disappear between them. So I need to add an extra blank line to make sure that the one is preserved. And here I've added extra lines to make sure that there is a clear gap between the title and then the beginning of the script. Long lines that are too long for the system will be automatically wrapped in CaptionView, so you don't have to worry about that if they don't need line returns. Otherwise, again, lines that have that need to be separated need an extra carriage return in between. So I'm going to select all, Ctrl A, and I'm going to copy, Ctrl C, and then we're going to open up CaptionView. One thing that we want to make sure of in CaptionView before we paste our script in is what width we would like. And you can change this on the fly, but it will erase the extra line returns that we have put in. So you don't really want to change this once you've loaded your script. Most of these were set at 24, I've seen, but the sign will support 28, so you can use that if you like. The number of rows is actually, the sign has 3 rows, but it only ever displays 2 because CaptionView always puts an empty line at the end, so I set that to 2. These other choices, the color can be changed later on the fly without impacting the script. So to get back to our script and our import, what we want to do is either use this paste button up here, or we can right-click or 2-finger click and choose paste here. That will paste our whole script in. We can move up and down through it, and you'll see that the blank line that was between all the lines of dialogue and like the title and the playwright, those have disappeared, but our extra lines that we put in are preserved. So we've got a reasonably formatted score. It's best to do your formatting in the editor that's used, and you can use Word as well. After we have imported a script, we can change the color of the text if we like, and of these attributes, the only one that matters is the color. Setting the sign font does nothing in the sign, and all that actually does is determine what number you see when you first load a sign, when you first load the program. In this case, it was number 5 came up on the display, but depending on what you've had that set to, you may see a different number come up, and that's because the sign isn't processing that actual command. The scroll speed is also ignored, but nothing shows up on the sign for that. So the only thing that matters here is the color. And the only colors that are supported are any flavor of yellow, green, and red. There's only 3 that it displays. The rainbow choices will make each character multiple colors, which is probably not very helpful when captioning a show. So amber, or red, or green are going to be your choices. Or yellow, orange, and amber are all the same thing. So I can leave that alone. If I've made a change, I can apply it. I can go back to sign text, and I'm ready to start driving my sign. So to navigate and to send captions to your sign, click down in the captions somewhere. You can begin by hitting the right arrow, and it will start sending lines to the sign. It's also helpful to have a blank line at the top, but right arrow simply moves us down through the script, and left arrow moves us back up. If you would like to advance to a random point in the script, you can select the line. It's best to select out here in the number, and you can hit Ctrl Enter, and that will send that line to the sign. And from there, you can move with your right and left arrow. You can also move one whole sign's worth of lines at a time by doing Ctrl Right arrow, and you'll see that it moved down 2, and that 2 is because I set the number of lines in sign settings to 2. So since it always adds a blank line at the end, by setting it to 2, I can use this feature and it won't skip any lines. You can also find these options by right-clicking out somewhere in the desktop here. And if I right-click, I have this paste option, which I used originally. You have to be careful not to use that again, otherwise you will wipe out all these lines and replace it with whatever is in the clipboard. You cannot go to the end of a script and paste a few extra lines in. It will erase everything in there. So you have to make sure that you've got all your script together in the external document. But here, set as bottom was that Control Enter that I used to go to any point. So if I select a line here, I want to go to line 9, I can set as bottom, and that loads that line that I had set. And we'll see that now Kite in Ages, which was that bottom line, is set. I can also, from here, clear sign, which actually only sends one blank line. So that's Control Delete. We can see that if I press Control Delete again, then I can send 2 blank lines and actually clear the sign. That's a little deceiving. But if you just need a blank line at any point, you can do Control Delete. And that's not backspace, but it's the delete key. Another option you have here, the set as bottom and sending a blank line are probably the most useful ones, but you can go to the beginning and the end of the script, and that's your prior line, and next line, that's just your right and left arrow. And scrolling the sign is that Control Right and left arrow. A refresh display resends everything that should be on the display if you need to. It also sends that setting number. So depending on whatever this is, you will see that number come again. So if we use that and we hit Control Insert, you'll see first that you get that number 5 from the settings, and then it refreshes and draws the 2 currently set lines. Again, the most important thing are the right and left arrow, and probably set as bottom if you need to jump to a different point in the script. So if you jump a section, or if you have a script that bounces around, you select the line, hit Control Enter, and you can load that line. And then from there you can start navigating. There are some editing tools in here if you need to add line breaks or add extra lines of dialogue. You can select a line and you can hit the plus to insert record. And from there, I can go into this field and type anything I need to have typed in there. Or if I found a typo, I can open up a field and then hit enter, and that line is now part of this script. I need to remember to go to File and Save if I've made any changes to my script. If I make any custom changes per each night, I can skip saving it, and then that way these changes aren't preserved for the following performance. You can also eliminate a line by using the minus sign. If I want to insert a blank line, I can hit the plus, and then I have to hit the green check mark. If I don't hit the green check mark, as soon as I move away, it deletes that empty line because it thinks I didn't want it. Once I've formatted my script, a nice feature is being able to save that script with the changes, any changes and corrections I've made here. And I can do that with the File menu, File, Save Text and Settings. and I'm just going to call it formatted script, but I would probably use the title of my play. And this is going to save it as a different file type. The file type is called XML, and you will not be able to double-click this file to open CaptionView. It will try to open a web browser if you double-click it, and it'll look like garbage. So you have to make sure that you open it from within CaptionView. And we can simply open up CaptionView. And the nice thing about this is that it will restore these settings to wherever you had them. So if I've changed this setting for a different play, different function, these settings here will be restored. Color will not be restored, but you can easily go change it back to whatever you had it. So if I go to File menu, Restore Text and Settings, I can choose desktop, and I have my formatted script, and there it's returned. My settings are as they were, and the color, if I had changed, I can change it. And I'm ready to go. I can hit the right arrow and start advancing through my script. COM ports. You can check the USB serial adapter, which is the computer end of the cable, by going into the device manager, which you can find through Control Panel. This is Windows 8, so it looks different than most versions of Windows. You can find it through Settings or Control Panel, and under System, and again, System, you will find Device Manager. You can also open up this window right here with a shortcut Windows key and break. But if we open up Device Manager and look at ports, we can see that it's a prolific PL2303, which is probably what most of the ones are. And it's got this GT. There's a lot of different letter combinations, which represents a lot of different versions of this cable. The older ones that these signs were sold with are no longer compatible with Windows, so you need one that's higher up in the alphabet, and they are available. The nice thing about the new ones is they always show up as the same COM number, COM port number. This one is COM6. On any different computer, it could be anywhere from COM3 to COM9. Or possibly even higher. That has to be plugged in to the computer before we run CaptionView. If you've changed the USB cable, the USB to serial cable, you may have a new COM port number, and to adjust that in CaptionView or get CaptionView to use it, you will need the sign manager. So under the File menu, you can open up the sign manager, and anything that you have defined here will be used if a cable is found on any of these ports. So at the moment, we have some old ports defined for an older cable, and this cable had different ports defined for depending on where you plugged it in, but our new one only needs one definition, our new cable, because it always shows up as COM6. We want all the default options. COM port, when we created it, we said it was COM6, baud rate 96, data bits 8, parity none, stop bits 1. RS485 mode, I have not found a difference whether it is checked or unchecked. RS485 is actually a different type of cable that can be longer than the 50-foot limitation we have on the RS232 cable that we use here. But whether that's checked or unchecked doesn't seem to have any matter. And flow control I also have not found a difference to, but it defaults to both, so I leave it there. So here is your default settings. So whatever COM port you have found in your device manager, you want to make sure is represented in the sign manager. If you make any changes in the sign manager, you'll want to save your changes before you leave. Okay, powering on the sign. in that initial message that comes up, you can see the firmware version if you ever need to know, and the memory in the sign. If you search for that firmware version with this alpha sign, you will find that you cannot find it because it is customized by presumably the people that created CaptionView or that sold CaptionView. So these signs have been modified from their original specification, so they will not work with software that works with standard alpha signs.